Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 kill team video. Today I'm going over how to maximize your activation efficiency. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of this video. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode's description below, as well as an affiliate link to Element Games, as well as a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. This is one of my monthly requested Patreon videos. But yeah, today I'll be going over how to maximize your activation efficiency. As I said, this was requested by my patrons, and what I'm going to cover is, it was like a fusion of how do I activate my operatives as an elite kill team player, so someone with 6 or less models, but also like how to maximize your efficiency in general when you're activating operatives, like who do I activate, when, where, and why. So I'll be going over that in this kind of hopefully short but thorough guide. So let's get on with it. So when it comes to operatives, generally kill teams will have a mix of operatives, but usually they'll have some form of similar archetypes. Like your kill team's always going to have a leader, but your kill team will likely have a comms expert who is going to give someone +1 APL, stuff like that. Gunners who are like, or melee dedicated operatives who are your hard hitters, and then you've got stuff like support operatives and then general operatives. But instead of just using them as the terms, I like to group operatives into 3 categories, because there's 3 general categories you can kind of put operatives into, and the key thing about these is they're not always fixed. Sometimes they'll change based on the mission you're playing, your opponent, and the table you're on. For example, playing on open is going to change things compared to playing on Into the Dark, because you'll need operatives who need to open doors, whereas to give you more access to the board and control objectives, whereas on open play they'd be just, you know, going on to going on to objectives and securing them. That's the way I kind of break them out. And the three key categories I like to use is, you've got your key operatives. These are operatives who have to do something for you this turning point. They either need to open a door, secure you an objective, or secure a tac op. These are things you have to do and are very fixed. Then you've got your, I like to call it time waster operatives. These are operatives who you can usually just use as like one of your first or second operatives to activate, and that, you know, they don't affect you that much, but they're great to just activate first and make your opponent wait. And then you've kind of got your support operatives. These kind of flex, because during the course of a game, you know, someone could be like a key operative, then a time waster operative, but a flex operative, someone you can just activate who may do something to buff your kill team, or just do something to secure you up the board. But you've got those 3 archetypes, and I'll go over each of them in depth now. So covering first, the most important ones are your time waster operatives. And now I don't mean they're time wasters as in like you're trying to waste out your opponent's time, but the way I call them is they're like actually more stall operatives. So they're operatives generally that horde teams have access to, but they're operatives in your kill team. They don't really do much. They're just like a melee operative, or like a shooting operative, or just like a general warrior. So like someone on your kill team who is just a general mook who can do whatever that does. So a good example of these is like if you're a veteran guardsman, it's your ancillary support trooper, because you know you've just got 4 basic dudes who are GA2. Even if you're playing intercession, this can be like your lone melee operative if you've taken a lot of assault intercessors, or even turning point 1, you know, you've got no safe shot, so you just move a gunner up. So on turning point 2, they're in a position where, you know, they can get to a vantage point, or you move them up onto a vantage point with a conceal order, but you know turning point 1 they're not going to get a shot, and you know, like, well, I'll just activate them first because it allows me to do stuff, but it makes my opponent think about stuff. Or like you're activating stuff because it's easy to compare with a horde team, because like, but it matters more when you have the same or similar number of activations as your opponent, because you want to do your key stuff last, like the key things that matter most to your game plan. So these are the operatives you activate first, and generally if you have more of these to activate than your opponent, it allows you basically more free time to do your important activations last without your opponent trying to intercept them. But yeah, as I said, you've got, you know, your guardsman veteran troopers, an assault intercessor warrior, or just normal intercessor with a gun turning point 1 who can't get a shot. Even like on Hand of the Archon, you've got your lone agent because that's one of your normal guys you can take. Especially turning point 1, melee operatives are basically your stall operatives because all they're doing really is moving into a position where they can get a charge and start doing stuff later in the game. But turning point 1, you're not really going to get a charge turning point 1, so they're great stall operatives to activate. But that's the key thing. You're trying to activate all your stall operatives first to force your opponent into a position where they start doing committal plays for their game. Before you do so, you have more chance to counterplay and also do yours freely. Next, we've got your support operatives. So support operatives kind of support your game plan as in general. Now, these can be dedicated support roles like comms, but also it can just be stuff like moving up your medic into position. So turning point 2, if they do get shot when you start making offensive plays, you can go, great, now my kill team is supported, or other operatives with buff auras. So support units are actually quite common. Good examples are comms. Generally, every kill team usually has a comm, so someone can give someone +1 APL. So you can either give a key operative +1 APL this turning point, or another, or after they've activated. So when they activate the next turning point, you can now give an additional +1 APL. As I said, medics are quite universal as well. And then like for more specific stuff, you have, like for Felgor's Ravagers, you have the Gong, because the Gong not only gives you +1 APL for objectives, but it gives that damage reduction aura, which is really important. And even when you look at stuff like the Hearthkin Salvagers, their android who can give out attack orders is a really key support piece, because once again, he can give it during your strategy phase, but then you can swing it around mid-turning point, so you can start punishing stuff. But support pieces, so they're operatives you can just activate. You don't need to activate them first, but you don't have to activate them last. They're kind of this middle ground, and it gives you this freedom. Another good example is if you give an assault intercessor or one of your intercessors an Auspex, because they're going to use that Auspex as their action to support the rest of your kill team. So once again, it's support units are stuff you activate not first, but not last. They're kind of like the stepping stone in where you want to activate, usually if you can catch out an opponent's misplay or just to set up your kill team for future plays. And then finally, we have your key operatives. So these are key operatives you have to activate. And once again, they're usually gunners and stuff, but it can also be operatives that for this turning point, you need to activate for like securing objectives, opening doors, securing tac ops, setting up counter charges for turning point 2. Good examples of key operatives, which can change as the turn goes on, are usually like your gunners, turning point 1, especially if you start them on engage near vantage points near your drop zone. So you can go, okay, if my opponent decides to push too far up, I can punish with my gunner, so I activate my gunner last. And as I said, if you're in Into the Dark, key operatives can also be operatives sometimes you have to activate first, like in order to open a door for the rest of your kill team to move. Or you go, I need to capture this objective, or I need to loot this objective, so I need to send this operative here. And that becomes more important the fewer operatives you have, because you now have maybe just a normal operative who would normally be like a stall operative, suddenly become a key operative because you need them to secure that objective because you have so few operatives. And this is one more hard to categorize, but as I said, examples are gunners, anyone with a unique gun on your kill team. Grenadiers are usually very key operatives that you want to activate last or first. So a good example is the Imperial Navy Breacher Demolitions Grenadier and the Tau Pathfinder Demolition Grenadier. And key operatives that you can activate turning point 1 are melee operatives. So once again, these kind of flex, they change. Turning point 1, they're not that good, but turning point 2, they're important. But these are like your hardest hitters, stuff you need to activate last or first. Last, more so during turning point 1, and then first during turning point 2, 3, and 4. So these are operatives you're actually planning your game around, and they're going to help you win. And then finally, we have the flex. This is the harder to categorize one, but the best way to describe it is, as I've been talking through these, while you do have specific operatives on your roster and general archetypes, you will flex you will flex based on what mission you're playing, what board, and what you're doing. And the best way to describe this is kind of just with practice. You need to know your kill team and know which operatives can do what. So for example, flex operatives are usually melee operatives because as I say, they actually start off as stall operatives, turning point 1, 2, but the moment you can start setting up charges, they switch into key operatives. And even comms, especially while they're mainly support operatives, they can be key operatives, especially if it's stuff like trying to get to an objective you need to secure, because a comms can swing that by giving you +1 APL so you can secure that objective, or they can become a key operative setting up plays for turning point 2. For example, you've activated your Grenadier, so now you activate your comms turning point 1 where your Grenadier is safe. So now when you start turning point 2, your comm says free APL so they can move, dash, and grenade someone. And these are the harder ones to categorize because it just flexes. Like, for example, Hand of the Archon are a great example of agents becoming flex operatives, because normally you're activating them first on open play just to stall out. But depending on the mission, especially if it's loot and salvage, or you're playing into the dark, your agent becomes one of your key operatives, because all of a sudden you don't have many operatives to spare. So all of a sudden you need someone dedicated to opening X door to open up the rest of your kill team, the board for the rest of your kill team. So you need to use your warrior as a key agent, and you may it just changes as the mission goes on. So these are ones harder to categorize, but it's something to keep open. And you know, you've got dedicated support units and dedicated stall and dedicated key operatives, but a lot of those operatives will switch roles as the game goes on. And it's very rare to find an operative that's dedicated into its fixed role. Like, I think the best examples for fixed role operatives are generally veteran guardsmen troopers. They're usually great stall operatives. General comms on non-elite teams, because once again, you have so many operatives. A comms just sitting back, you know, buffing up so people with +1 APL generally isn't a key maneuver. And then key operatives are usually just like your gunners and melee operatives once they're in range. Now, to link this all together, while it would be easy to show with a guard kill team, a lot of requests I've gotten is how do I activate like elite operatives? Because kill teams is a very activation based game. And when you're activating with elite kill teams, it's really hard. Even though Intercession with their 14 wounds and 6 operatives are very tanky with their free up saves, you still are only 6 operatives. So when you look at your roster, like your stall operatives turning point 1 are just anyone who can't do damage turning point 1. So for example, if you haven't recon dashed up your kill team, so let's say you have a melee leader with a chainsword and plasma pistol, a grenadier, then you have a normal assault intercessor with Auspex, your gunner, and then 2 more gun intercessors. So turning point 1, no one's in threat range, your opponent's playing quite cautiously. So what you can do is you can actually activate your grenadier first as one of your stall operatives, and even your leader, because once again, they're not really going to get charges turning point 1. You'll probably actually activate your leader first, because your leader can just go, you know what, I can play a bit recklessly with my leader, so he's going to be a stall operative turning point 1. So he's just going to move and dash straight up the board. He's completely safe. If my opponent tries to get a suicide run on him, they're going to be severely punished, and I can usually tank it. Then you can go like, okay, I've got a gunner on the left-hand flank, but all I can do is just move up. So what I'm going to do is move and dash up onto this vantage point. I know I can't get a shot, but it's a stall operative, because turning point 2 become a key operative. And then your support operative will actually become your assault intercessor with an Auspex. Because remember, your Auspex supports your team as an intercessor. So you can move and dash and Auspex and move and dash and something like that. So you can actually use this as a support piece. And then your 2 gunners, you know, if they're on engage outside a line of sight and either near a vantage point or within reach of an access to a vantage point, you can have one just move and dash and pass, so they're still outside the line of sight. But the moment you see someone active, you can just move and dash your gunner up onto the vantage point, take a shot. So in that example, your leader was a stall operative that you can activate first. Then you can activate either your grenadier or one of your gunners as a stall operative as well. Then you activate your assault intercessor with Auspex, and then you activate one of your guys on engage and then your gunner last. So you've got your 2 key operatives there on engage last, and that's just turning point 1. Remember, turning point 2, if you've suddenly got people in range, suddenly your leader and grenadier may become your key operative, and probably your grenadier is going to become your key operative that you need to activate first, because turning point 2, you can now go charge, kill someone, throw a grenade, and set the tempo. And it's stuff like that. Unfortunately, when you are activating elite operatives, you kind of have to accept you're going to be out-activated a lot. but you can do it in such a way, especially turning point 1, where stall operatives are really important. You can actually look at your kill team and go, actually, I might only have one key operative, maybe turning point 1. I can just stall out with my, melee operatives or units that won't get a shot this turn, but then I can either set them up into positions turning point 2 where they can punish and so forth. Another example is, once again, Veteran Guardsmen, because they're the best team at effectively stalling out people, or even Galapox Infected. But generally, Veteran Guardsmen, you activate your 4 support troopers first, and then you activate everyone who won't be able to get a shot and slowly activate there. If you're Galapox Infected, you effectively activate all your 4 bugs first, and then your Glitchlings, then your Mutants, and then finally your Key Operatives or your Nightmare Hooks. So those 2 teams are great examples of how to activate stall, support, and key operatives, right? So overall, I hope that kind of made sense. It's difficult to kind of explain this all, as it does change a lot every turning point, not just every game, because it's this weird thing where it's something you pick up, but it's really hard to show to people when you're trying to condense it into a video, even an article, because there's so much going on in Kill Team, and the way you activate your operatives heavily depends on the game, the mission, and the opponent you're playing. As I've said, remember, you've got the 3 key archetypes, which are your stall operatives, ones which you can just activate first to waste time, so you can have more breathing room for your own activations. Then your support operatives, who are just going to buff the kill team in other ways. And then you've got your key operatives, which turning point 1 are stuff you're activating last. So they're usually gunners, but turning point 2, 3, and 4, the operatives you're activating first. And these are operatives that generally you need to secure objectives or push into enemy territory and getting key kills, but they can also do that while capturing objectives. And then you've got flex operatives who can switch between both, or any role actually. And generally you'll find a lot of operatives can flex, but there's still some that are dedicated. And my best advice is just practice, I'm afraid. You will learn it the more you play with the kill team you stick with. Even when I switch up kill teams, I find I have to play them for a few games before I settle out on which operative is important to which mission and stuff. Like, for example, Hand of the Archon is where I had to relearn most of my activation orders, because on open play, Agent would be, just my first operative who I just stall with. But then in some matches, he was my Grenadier caddy with my Plasma Grenade. But then on Into the Dark, he became super important, because he was, even though he had no unique ability, that actually made him really important, because now I needed him as a key operative to open doors, to let stuff through, or to, run onto a point just to capture it for my kill team, even though it would leave him quite exposed, because he was the most expendable operative on my kill team, whereas everyone else was too important. But yeah, this is one I've been working on for a while, and it's hard to explain. Like, it's one of these guides where you kind of, it'd be easier if I could watch you play and then advise off of that instead of just telling you what to do. But I hope it made sense, because it's an important topic. I know other players have talked about it. I know Chris Backey has a kind of similar mindset to me, and I wouldn't be surprised if every player has, like every other top player, has their own way for calling it, but it's kind of all the same mindset. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know if this guide was helpful, if I missed anything. Let me know. I'd be really interested to hear your feedback. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, as well as an affiliate link in Element Games if you want to give me some more support, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And remember, this is one of my monthly Patreon requested videos, so I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my Adepts of the Crit, I have Tall Barden, Sam, Nicholas, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Kenzie, John Thomas, Eric, Captain Murder, Dad of Goldens, Ben, Average Joe 27, and Arthur. And then for my Veterans of the Crit, I have Sam Just. So thank you so much. Your support really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me today. I have a lot of stuff to do. I've actually almost fully painted another kill team. I'm actually trying to run through my kill teams and stuff. And then there's like, I still have so much stuff I need to do. But yeah, once again, back to more tactical content. So I hope this worked. As I said, this is really hard for me to actually kind of put into words. So I've been thinking about this video for a lot. So I hope it helped. I really try and do my hardest with guides, and I always feel like I don't do well. It's frustrating. But yeah, remember, no matter how you activate your operatives, Remember, the order isn't that important as long as you can roll a crit.